Welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio, your show for all things positive, with your host, Kirk Spencer. Good morning and welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio. This is Kirk Spencer, your host and producer. Today's show is with Lanea Stagg. She is the author of Little Dog in the Sun. Well, we're going to wait for her to call in, but while we're waiting for her to call in, I do want to remind you that we have stopped the Thoughts for Growth segments that we were putting on podcast Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, only because I was asking for people to give suggestions, comments, questions, or even just to say hi, and nobody seemed to care. So I decided to quit doing those. I'll probably continue doing my Thoughts for Growth segments on my blog, which you might find on rare occasions being posted on K-Wave 6 Radio, in Facebook, and on Twitter. There may be a link put to it on the K-Wave 6 blog on occasion, but I like to write, so I'll put my thoughts there and espouse on them from there. Otherwise, we're just going to continue on with these live interviews, especially when we can make sure that they are live. And we hope that you enjoyed these. If you'd like to make comments, if you'd like to send in an email or something just to say hi, we'll even put your name on the radio show just to say, hey, we've given a shout out to, I'll give an example, my friend Kim over in Missouri, soon to be in Colorado. So we can do something like that. Anyway, Lanea has called in, so we're going to welcome her to the show. Good morning,
hello,
Lanea.
Kirk.
Hi. We're on air.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, how are you?
I am great.
Good. I was just giving a little introduction. I just kind of started with Little Dog in the Sun. You're also the author of, the series of books called Recipe Records. And there's book one, there's the 60s edition, and the Culinary tribute to the Beatles. You also had or have a blog talk radio show called, guess what, Recipe Records. You have a website. And you have a blog. You're and your mother of how many?
Well, I have 3 children, and my husband and I have a blended family, and he has 5 children. So that adds up to 8. It seems like 80 some days, but we have combined, we have 8 children.
And you managed to do all this writing and everything else, and we also have your mother involved with this as well. So where do you actually have time for all of your life?
Well, I never have enough time. It's completely clear. But I like doing the radio show and writing the blog. That's my escape. That is where I can kind of forget about all the stress of everybody else and kind of look at other things that interest me, and I gain a lot of peace from doing that.
Yeah, as we were talking about just before the show, I asked her to describe herself, and I said, "So you're an introvert?" And she went, "Well, yeah, kind of." I said, "In other words, you enjoy your downtime, but when you have to step up to the plate, you can do it." And she goes, "Yes." And I said, "See, you're an introvert."
Absolutely. You got it. Hit the nail right on the head.
So, yeah, but as we introverts are, people think that introverts are shy people. No, shy people are shy people. Introverts are just people, I'm comfortable being me. I have no problem just being me. I can step up to the plate. I can go talk on the microphone. I can act and do all this kind of stuff, but my downtime is me. So, anyhow, let's move on into, I don't want to rush, but I just want to start with something here. Tell us a little bit about, tell us as much as you want, The book Little Dog in the Sun. I was kind of noticing when I was posting the pictures, the picture of you with your dog. He's looking to your left in the picture, and the book cover, the dog is looking to his right. So I just tried to put them together where they're looking at each other. But at any rate.
Very, very clever.
So tell us about the book Little Dog in the Sun, because the picture on the book cover and your dog look to be the same.
Yes, that is my little dog, and I started calling her my little dog in the sun because every time she was outside, even if it seemed like a cloudy, rainy day, she would always find a little bit of light, and she would gravitate toward that. And at the time that she came into our home, it was a really, really dark time for me because I had lost my best friend that I had had for 14 years, and she passed away suddenly at the age of 44, and I was just really floored by that. And she, the little dog, just happened to be born on the same day that my best friend passed away. It was just one of those cosmic occurrences.
Synchronization.
And so she, after she didn't actually come to live with us until she was, 6 weeks or 8 weeks old. And I just started to feel like she could understand what I was going through. And so I had this story in my mind, and it actually took me probably 2 years before I actually woke up one day and said, I need to write this down. And I wrote it down, and a week later I was trying to sell my cookbooks at a winery, and there was an artist who had a booth right next to me, and I kept looking at his artwork, and I thought that his artwork just seemed to be exactly what I envisioned to go along with the story. And so I did not know him, and I approached him. We talked for a while, and then I approached him about this story that I had written, and I felt certain he was going to think I was a total quack and run the other way. But he and his wife came to our home for dinner a couple weeks later, and we talked more and got to know each other a little bit. And we decided that, he could do the artwork to go with my story. And it took about a year for all of it to come to fruition, but we pulled it off, and he had just such a gift for looking at, talking to me and getting to know what struggles I had been through, and turning that into a watercolor image. And it's very touching to me, and I love it. But it turned out to be a pretty sweet little book, and that is how the book came about. My best friend and I had started writing our recipe records cookbooks. We started our first cookbook about 7 years ago, and so that is how all of it came. That's sort of the short version of how the path goes.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine. The short version was probably too short, but okay. Tell us a little bit about the book, the contents of the story.
I'm sorry?
Well, tell us a little bit about the story. You told us about how this book came about, but give us a little bit from the book.
Well, it starts off, and the image that I keep saying that this is, my favorite, but they're all my favorites. The first image that John created for me, And I gave him no specifics of what I wanted. I just said, do whatever. And he drew this or created this watercolor, and it's two silhouettes of women dancing with the sun in the window, and there's a beautiful record player with a record on it, and it, the words say that there were two very good friends who loved to listen to music, and the sounds of rock and roll would make them dance and laugh. And so it starts off that way, and then it goes through, and then the page, there's an image with of a rainstorm. It's beautiful painting. And it says, on a gray, gloomy day, one of the friends became very sick. She passed away not long after that. The other friend was very sad. The sunlight went out of her life. And then on the next page, there's this beautiful wooded area with the sun shining through, and the sun, I know it's just a watercolor image, but it looks, the sun is almost blinding. When you look at it, it's just amazing that he could create this art. And then there's some little dog footprints, and it says, on the same day the sick friend went to heaven, a little dog was born. And then it proceeds to, talk about how the little dog did not have a home, and the family wanted her. And probably the most moving image in the story is a picture, and this was one image that I was a little more specific with John, and I said, I just have this vision weighing in my mind of my bedroom door and buckets. I'm going to get all choked up. Buckets of tears sitting outside my bedroom door, because I felt like I had just shed buckets of tears for my friend. So that's one of the most moving images in the book. And then it goes through, and there's happy pictures of the little dog going outside and finding a place in the sun. And her name is Ava, as I had mentioned. And so one thing I would always say to her is, you have a little dog smile on your face, my little dog in the sun. And so the one image says, whenever Ava was in the sun, she always seemed to have a little dog smile on her face. And the sad friend noticed that when she looked into Ava's little dog eyes, they would seem to be saying, it's warm here in the sunshine. Be happy, even when it's cold outside, and even when you are cold and sad inside your heart. And then the sad friend started to look toward the sun and toward the things that made her smile again. And then that's how it ends. So it ends on a happy note. It kind of goes up and down, and John and I had said, people would say, it's a children's book. It's the the size of it and how you open it, and the wording is for children, but adults are as moved by it, or are more moved by it than children usually. But we kind of labeled it with the help of Jennifer Vanderslice, who is an agent for us. Jen suggested it was a kidult book, kid and adult.
I like that.
And I said that's right on, because it does appeal to children and to adults.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the long version.
Good, because we're going to come back to more of it in just a moment. We're going to take our first commercial break. Please stay with us, and I'm going to ask Lanea a question when we come back, see if she's willing to do this, and we can go from there. So anyway, by the way, the chat rooms are open. If you want to send a chat to us, we can ask Lanea on the air. If you have any questions or comments, just sign into our chat room, and we'll go from there. But anyway, hold on. We'll be right back after our first commercial in 2 minutes.
Hey everybody, this is Suzanne Perry, founder of LoveIsShouldn'tHurt.tv. You're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio.
Hi, this is Amy Young of JSJ Phone. We are providers of junior iPhone, iPad, iPod, also Samsung, Sony, Nokia cards and accessories at very good quality and low prices. We sell to individuals, and the companies have 3 to 5 days delivery time by DHL or UPS. We do delivery in 24 hours after payment confirmed. For more information, see our website www.jsjphone.com www.jsjphone.com. Contact me, Amy Young, mailbox emy@jsjphone.com or by phone 0086 134 18696 by Skype emy.yang2012.
Yes, honey. This is Marlo Wright of mbymarlo.com, and you're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio.
And welcome back to our show. Our guest today is Lanea Stagg, the author of Little Dog and the Sun and Recipe Records series, the cookbooks. Anyhow, well, Lanea, if you're still there, I have a question for you.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Would you like to take calls from any of your listeners? If anybody is not at work and still listening to the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
Okay.
But I'm not going to tell you how much I weigh. So. That's off limits.
I won't ask. I think I pushed my limits when we were talking last week or a week before, whenever it was, and I asked you your age, and you told me, and I just got flabbergasted with that one because I didn't think you don't appear that age. At least in my mind's eye of what a person your age is supposed to be looking like. You look like 10 years younger, if not more.
Oh,
so
thanks.
So with all that you're doing, whatever you're doing, maybe I better start eating some rock and roll recipes.
I tell you what, that would cure it.
All righty then. So, you heard it. She says she will take calls from you if you call in. But, of course, we're going to do that later on in the show. So, I actually pulled up. I can see what part of my problem was. I was having problems earlier trying to connect with Lanea, and it seems like something's gotten into my computer and it wants to bother me. So I'm not a happy camper at this point. Yeah?
Hey, Kirk,
Yes?
I'm going to correct you. You can pronounce my name Lena. Rhymes
What
with
did I say?
Dana.
Did I say Lanea again? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No problem.
Sorry.
It is no problem. But if we get to the end, you'll say, "Why didn't you tell me?" So.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Thank you for correcting me. No, that's fine.
No problem.
Like the correction, because I may have said it again and again and again. Well, I have a friend. Her name is Ria, and she spells it R-E-A. So I just go Lanea. So sorry.
Sure.
Lanea,
Trust me, it's for 48 years. I've been called all kinds of had all kinds of pronunciations. So,
Yeah,
not a problem.
I can imagine. Okay, and let me see. Now, where were we? Because I was trying to find.
You were looking at a browser. Yes.
Yeah, I seem to have gotten some kind of I don't remember downloading a program recently to get this intrusion, but okay, it's here and I'll have to deal with it later. Anyway, what? Oh, okay. Yes, I'm looking at your book right now. Yeah, you were reading this. Okay. The little dog went to live in many different homes, but nobody would keep her. It made her feel sad and alone. The sad friends, family wanted to adopt a little dog and give her a home. How could anybody not want to keep that cute little doggie?
Well, I did not want that cute little doggie because I knew I would have to take care of that cute little doggie. That seems to be a common occurrence in a household, that the mom or the dad usually ends up taking care of the beast that the children want to bring into the home. And we already had a dog, and I love dogs, but I just didn't have any I did not have any strength to take on anything else. At the time I was working full time, and our kids a lot of them were still in high school and middle school, and we were so busy, and I just didn't have room in my heart for another little dog. And so I was honest, but I just they carried on so much, I finally relented and said, well, just go ahead and we'll figure out how to make it work. I'm just one day at a time right now, and that's how it went. And of course, now I love her. She's my girl, and we're the best of buds, and wouldn't have it any other way. But at that moment, I just did not want her, and I had the thought months later that most things happen for a reason, and there was some reason why that little dog came to live with me, and I know now it was to help me through the grieving of my friend, and not that completely fixed anything. It doesn't, but it helped. And and the children's book is therapeutic for me too, but I know that the story has touched a lot of other people who have lost very close loved ones, and I've had countless numbers of people tell me how it really spoke to them, and that's very heartwarming for me to feel like that some words that I wrote down could help someone, because the grief is pretty powerful, and some people can't get through it, and it took me a lot longer than I had a lot of people tell me you to pick yourself up and move on, and I just couldn't. I talk to my friend a dozen times a day at the minimum, because she was visually impaired, and she didn't work during the day, so she would call me a dozen times a day even though I was working, and so then all of a sudden that's all gone. So
Yeah, everybody has their own particular time of grieving. I mean, my father passed 30-some odd years ago. I was still in my late 20s when he passed, and he and I were very, very close. And there's still times that I sit back and I just think about him, and, it's there, just in my memory.
Right.
But let me get to page 30 in your book, and it says, even when the sun goes down and it gets dark and quiet, you can always find the light if you know where to look. Can you tell us what that is? You're the author, so expound on what you were expressing at that point.
Well, to be completely honest,
okay,
that line was actually written by the artist, because at that time we had already finished the book, and it actually ended. Everybody listening to this show is going to know the inside story. This is a 6 o'clock news and flash. So on the previous page, it has the dog smelling the flower and says, sometimes they can end up teaching you a lot too. That's where I ended the story. And then John, after we were just ready to go to print, John calls me one day and shortly after and says, hey, I did a couple of more paintings that I think should be, to go in there, and I thought, well, we're kind of done, and he said, I think that we should say, even when the sun goes down and it gets dark and quiet, you can always find the light if you know where to look. And I said, that is absolutely beautiful. The image is the little dog, and her back is to us, and she's looking at this gorgeous moon that is yellowish moon, and it's nighttime, but you can see the glow of the moon on the ground, and the little dog is in the glow of the moon. And on the opposite page is another one of his fabulous paintings. It is a night sky, and you can see the Milky Way. And I'm not an astrology person by any means, so I'm told that is called the Milky Way.
Yes,
but
indeed.
It's a very beautiful image. And so that is the 411 on where that came from. And I thought it was perfect. It was, it just went perfectly. When John and I started working together on all of this, we just really connected on, what I was thinking, and he was able to translate that into the art, and it was just very smooth and seamless how well his images would work with what I was writing. So that's where it came from.
Sounds wonderful. Before we continue on, because we're after this next break, we're going to get into your books about Recipe Records. So stay tuned, everyone, and if you want to type in on the chat room, you can do that, or you can call in about 15 minutes if you have any questions for those who are not at work, and we'll take it from there. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in 1 minute.
Hi, this is Lisa Avebury, and I am with Sacred Introvert Retreat Tours. We're heading off to Glastonbury this May, and we hope you'll join us. So check it out, sacredintrovert.com. And I'm at K-Wave 6 Radio, and I'm feeling super honored and blessed to be here. Have a beautiful day.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com. And you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Rhea. Coach Rhea is a certified professional life coach with a passion to help make the difference in the world.
Hi, this is Al Sussman, the author of Changing Times, 101 Days That Shaped a Generation, published by Parading Press. And you're listening to the always interesting Kirk Spencer on K-Wave 6 Radio.
Hello and welcome back. Today my guest is Lanea. There you go, Lanea Stagg. So,
Lena.
Huh?
Lena.
Okay, I'm going to write that one down this time. Okay. Lena. Okay, I thought you said
it
the
doesn't
name.
offend me. It doesn't offend me. I just know at some point somebody will say, "Why didn't you tell him?" Okay, I did. So.
Okay, just to get you laughing anyway. Let's see. We've got recipe records. Your quote. Matter of fact, I pulled it up. I'm going to have to restart my computer after all this stuff is done. But, oh, Jesus. Found something else. Okay. Table of contents. The opening act for a cookbook. That's cute. Let's start out with the first one. Baby, hold on to those appetites.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that one.
Well, all of the recipes in the cookbook were recipes that my friend Maggie and I had been collecting over the years, not for any specific purpose, but you know, you'd go to a party and have an appetizer and think, oh, I want that recipe. So we've been collecting all of these recipes for years, and we also had these awesome recipes from our moms and dads and all sorts of friends. And so we just thought that we would use these recipes, and it was actually Maggie's idea to name the recipes after songs or musicians or something to do with music. And so Baby, Hold On to These Appetizers is named for the Eddie Money song, Baby, Hold On to Me. And along with each layout goes together. The two recipes you see kind of go together. So you have the recipe on each page, and then we will have a suggested song list. So instead of a suggested wine list that you would see in an upscale cookbook, we created a song list that would pair well with the recipes. So you'll have that on just about every layout, but we would also put in little stories, generally very cute, funny little stories about musicians that we had come into contact with over the years. We were kind of a Lucy and Ethel kind of couple, and we would just have these funny things happen to us. Never did we like it to go backstage to a rock and roll party or none of that kind of business. It was just always very funny little stories. And so on the Eddie Money page, Maggie wrote a story about when she was a DJ in St. Louis. She was announcing the entertainers at a concert there, and Eddie Money was one of the musicians. And she just always told this story about how they were backstage meeting him and you know, everybody's getting his autograph and all of that, and Maggie didn't know what to say to him. She was kind of flustered, which is uncommon because she always knew what to say. She was very colorful and very very large personality, and she just always knew what to say. But she was racking her brain with Eddie Money standing there, and so in this story she says that she said, "Mr. Money, your shirt is really soft." and Eddie replied in his surly, sexy East Coast drawl, "You know it, babe." So, you're just envisioning this little exchange happening, and it's just very comical. And you will find those stories scattered throughout the book, and that's why the first cookbook is my favorite. It not only has all of our best recipes, but it has all of our stories. And there's much funnier than that throughout the book. Right, well, they're all great.
Let's go to the one that I've been looking at for the last, I don't know how many minutes. It says Watermelon Camp Cucumber Salad. There's got to be an interesting story that goes with that one.
Let me see if I can pull that one up. I don't know if we have an interesting story for that one or not, but what page is that?
Page 30.
Okay. Let me get that here. We wrote this like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously the salad has watermelon and cucumbers in it, and so we translated that into Watermelon Camp and named the recipe for John Mellencamp. And the recipe opposite of that is called Garden Veggie Party, and that's named for the Ricky Nelson song Garden Party. So the song list is only John Mellencamp and Ricky Nelson songs that we think are awesome. And the story is about when Ricky Nelson, how he came to write Garden Party, and it was because of his concert that he did in 1971 at the Madison Square Garden, and he was kind of booed off the stage, and so the song is you should listen to the song. It's a great song, great message on, what we wrote in here, one of the lines he said was, "You can't please everyone in this life, so you got to please yourself."
Yep.
And so we just thought that was pretty cool, and that's where that one came from.
All right, one more, and then no, we got time. Okay. Here's one from someone I was just listening to over the weekend. He and Steve Winwood, which is Eric Clapton, Layla Salad. Now, the song Layla, if you came from, I don't know if there's another song called Layla by anybody else, but Eric Clapton, that song is beautiful, but it's also kind of a sad song. So.
Oh yeah, Derek and the Dominoes is the band. It was Eric's band, but he had his undercover name Derek. So Derek and the Dominoes, and I think one of the Allman Brothers were actually in the Dominoes. I think I can't remember for sure, but that's like the ultimate rock and roll song. And Eric Clapton wrote it about Pattie Boyd, who was George Harrison's first wife, all these people have written all these songs about Pattie Boyd, and I'm like, what? But so that song, I call that the whole Derek and the Dominoes album is a crying album. It's just crying over this girl. So
Boy.
yeah. And then across from the Layla salad is one of my most favorite recipes of all time, rock and roll hoochie couscous.
I saw that. Didn't want to go there.
Oh yeah. They get way worse than that, though. But the recipe is phenomenal. And if you have never had couscous, this is excellent.
I love couscous, but unfortunately, I haven't seen or heard of anybody actually serving it down here in Mexico. So I'm kind of missing that, but let's go see if I can find it someplace. Ooh.
Yeah,
actually,
might be hard to find.
Well, we have Walmart.
I have a hard time.
Sam's Clubs.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time finding it in southern Indiana. They don't really know what it is here either. So. What's that name? Yeah, okay, gotcha. All right. Before we go into another break, which will be our last one, tell us about your inspiration for doing the 60s edition, and we'll get into the culinary tribute to the Beatles after our break. But tell us the inspiration about the 60s edition. Well, as Maggie and I finished up our recipe records, we got an endorsement from Charlie Daniels and some other pretty well-known people, and we were doing really well with it and having a great time, and we realized we could not turn off the madness of hearing a song on the radio and translating it into a recipe. It was like a serious problem. And so we decided that we should do a cookbook for each decade. And so we started with the 60s. And we just weren't really interested in doing the 50s. But we started with the 60s, and we were going to do 60s, 70s, 80s, and heaven forbid the 90s. But we started the 60s, and, you know, we were probably a quarter of the way with writing the 60s when she became ill and passed away. And the book just sat in my bin for probably 8 or 9, 10 months. And then I kind of decided I need to pull myself out of it and finish it, because I still had all of this creative energy going on in my brain, and I wanted to get it out. And you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, she would have wanted you to do that. I don't know that at all. I would just prefer that she were still here. But I'm going to go ahead and do this 60s cookbook. And so the 60s cookbook is only food and music of the 60s. There are not the funny stories like she and I wrote in the first book, but there's lots of stories about musicians in the 60s. There's a layout about TV shows in the 60s. One of my favorites, I just scanned through here, Give Peas a Chance, and that's a pea recipe. And there's the suggested song lists to go along with that too. I love the 60s. We both loved the 60s. And Dean Martini's Deluxe, Que Sera Sera's, Mrs. Robinson's Affair. That's a sinful wine drink. Lots of, Moon Dip. That's one of my favorites. And wrote about the Moon Dip. The main ingredient in that is tang. Ha ha ha.
What?
Tang.
Is
the drink tang? They took to the moon. Yes. The orange powdered drink mix.
Oh, you got to tell us about that one real quick.
I don't think you have enough time for for all this madness.
Madness, I like.
So, Puffs the Magic Dragons. That's a cream puff recipe. of course, when I told my mom I was doing a 60s cookbook, she says, "Oh, cream puffs." So
yeah, those were popular.
Yeah, they were pretty big.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
that is how the 60s book came about.
Cool. All right, we're going to take our last break, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to actually ask you about this tang that you were talking about. So, this tang recipe, yeah, got to know about that one. So, anywho,
right.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after, about 2 minutes. So, stay tuned. We'll be right back with Lanea. I get it right that time?
You got it.
All right, Lanea Stagg. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Batzion Saskine-Sachs of www.bat-zion.name, N-A-M-E. You're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio with Kirk Spencer.
Hi, this is Pat Kammer, author of Love's Voice Changes You, Book 1. And I now have Book 2, which is called Hello Awesome, Message from Spirit in Pat's Patters. Buy your book from Amazon.com.
Do you get writer's block or tongue-tied when you try to write or talk? Need a wordsmith for a script, article, or research paper? Let K-Wave 6 Productions help you with all of your audio, visual, editing, and language translation needs for your business or hobby. Does the thought of creating a website give you chills? We also have webmasters to help you with all your website needs. Remember K-Wave 6 Productions. www.kwave6productions.tk or email us at info.kwave6productions.tk.
Hi, this is Duke Mayo Rockefeller. Please check out my humanitarian organization, www.livechildlive.org. You are listening to K-Wave 6 Radio with our esteemed radio host, Kirk Spencer.
I always hear that part, the esteemed, and I'm just like, oh, but yeah. Okay, anyway. Those who are listening, if there's anyone listening out there that wants to call in and talk to Lanea, Lanea, there we go. Correcting myself now. This is good. But anyone wants to call in the last couple of minutes, the number is 347-677-0812. Once again, that's 347-677-0812. Call in quickly because we're going to be ending the show in roughly 10 minutes. So anyway, tell us about that recipe with the tang, please.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much, Kirk, for having me on. And I've had so many laughs this morning. This is a great day, great way to start my day. So
good.
Thank you.
Glad you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it too.
Okay, so this recipe, on this layout, we have moon dip, and across from it, what's new pussycat litter cake. Okay, so that's another one. That's a whole nother show in itself. So I'm not going to go there.
Okay, so we'll have you back again another time.
Sure. The moon dip is a fruit dip, and it's very light and creamy, and it's delicious for dipping strawberries, pineapple, melons, and such. But where I created this from was I wanted to recognize the moon landing in 1969, and probably the main reason I wanted that is because I kept seeing all these songs about the moon, and so that had to be my suggested song list. And so you have Space Oddity by David Bowie, Mr. Spaceman by the Byrds, 2,000 Light Years from Home by the Rolling Stones, Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. So I had to create a recipe to go with the moon. And so I started thinking about, what they did on and reading about the moon flight and such. And then I remembered, as a kid, they always, the commercials always sold you the Tang by being, it was the space exploration drink, that the astronauts used. And that was the only reason I had Tang. And I don't know why. I thought I was going to be an astronaut. But so I had to figure out something to put Tang into, and I ran across a recipe that it's just not, it's 3 ingredients. And I thought, well, yeah, we can make that work. And so I, tested it out, and it tastes pretty yummy. And you can still buy Tang. I think they even have, berry flavored Tang now, which that can't be as good as the orange. But the moon dip is cream cheese, marshmallow cream, and Tang. Whip it all together and, dip your fruit. So it's a conversation, and it's just, something out of the ordinary to make for your friends, and it has a funny story to go with it. So that was kind of the intent that Maggie and I had when we were doing the first cookbook, was creating these opportunities for people to have make the recipes and enjoy the music, the musicians. If you're everyone's going to a Bruce Springsteen concert, you can go through and pick out some Bruce Springsteen recipes and have your friends over for appetizers, and it just creates an event for you to share with your friends and family. And we were real big with that. We were always encouraging people to, have a good time with your loved ones.
Uh-huh. All right, tell us about the Culinary tribute to the Beatles. We only have a few minutes, so what can you tell us?
Well, my commercial, as I was finishing the 60s cookbook, I had someone at the publishing company call me about doing a Beatles cookbook. And I said, I could do that yesterday. And so I kind of started brainstorming, and I came up with 50 recipes to celebrate 50 years of the Beatles. And it took me about 30 days to write it and get it all off to the printer. And I loved every minute of it. It was so therapeutic because I love the Beatles, and of course I love the food, and it was just it just happened very easily. I have different stories in here, trivia and the like, to try and inform people of the Beatles. It's a little more obscure information about the Beatles than your average she loves you, yeah person knows. A lot of people just hear that on the radio, and that's all they know about the Beatles, but they don't really know the guts of where the Beatles were coming from and what they did to change music, society. They were a catalyst for so many changes in our world. And so I just wanted to share that. And of course the recipes have the same clever twist. We have Let It Brie, stuffed Sergeant Peppers, You Say Goodbye, I Say Jell-O, George Martini's. George Martin was their manager, and producer, not their manager. I Should Have Known Butter, I Am the Eggs Man, Savoy Truffles, and I created a different chocolate truffle for each Beatle. So John is a lemon tart, Paul is a sweet cherry cream, George is a smooth mellow coffee, and Ringo is a raspberry nut. So
like Grease a nut.
I love Ringo, but you know. So that's where the Beatles cookbook came from, and I've got a 70s cookbook swirling around in my brain, and maybe if I can slow down a little bit, I can get that, get work on it, but we'll see.
Yeah, let me give you a little challenge. Why don't you try one for Steve Winwood?
I love Stevie. I saw Stevie.
There you go.
I don't know, golly, like 30 years ago, and Robert Cray opened for Stevie Winwood, and it was amazing. And Stevie Winwood can play 20,000 different instruments. He's amazing, and I've always loved his music. So.
Yeah, I just recently downloaded "Roll with It, Baby," or "Roll with It." Yeah, it's the name of the title.
Yeah.
It's the title of the song.
Yep, "Roll with It." About 1989.
Yeah, something like that. And I actually there's such a nice bass line to it. I had to go edit it and bring out the bass in it, so now it's a lot heavier than the original. But
wow.
I like that song.
Wow.
Well, if you can't get it, you just make it happen. So anyhow, That's what I did.
Exactly.
Well, we only have about 2 minutes. So, what would you like to say in closing before we go?
Well, again, I really appreciate being on the show, Kirk. I've read a little bit of your different blog posts and such, and I'm very appreciative of your efforts to promote positive thinking for people. And I applaud you for being out there and giving an opportunity for people to listen to things that are positive. There's so much negative in our world, and I just really appreciate that effort. I think it's just very heroic of you to stay out there and keep things real and keep things positive. I do have 8 kids, and it's extremely hard. This is an extremely hard climate that we're living in to raise children, and they need as much positive information as they can get. And their parents aren't always going to listen to their parents. So, the more opportunities that are out there for young people to hear positive things is the way to go. So I really appreciate that, and I've loved being on the show. I don't really have spare minutes just to sit around and chit-chat, and this has been great. I can't believe we talked 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago went by in a blink. So
yeah. Well, we're definitely going to have you back again. So we'll work on that one. And thanks once again for being here. We just ran out of time, and well, you know how Blog Talk goes. So they're telling me about time. So anyway, we got to go. Thanks everyone for being here, and we'll hope to see you again soon. Be well.
All right. Thank you.
As we close today's show, we at K-Wave 6 Radio thank you for being with us today. Also, we ask that you follow our blog, Twitter, and Facebook links, and our Thoughts for Growth podcast episodes, which air on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern. Links to follow us and to our media players can be found at www.kwave6, that's the number 6, radio.tk. Again, that's kwave6radio.tk, or www.kwave6radio.weebly.com. Check out what's happening at Freedom Talk Radio and SETV by visiting their site at www.freedomtalkradio.net. And as always, all the best